So, Steve, when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. justifies this executive order, this federal takeover of the production and manufacture, essentially, of elemental glyphosate in order to make sure that we have enough of it and that the food supply is secure. And his justification for it is that there is no viable alternative. I read that he said that. You're saying there absolutely is a viable alternative.
Well, what you have to do is you have to cultivate your field. Okay. When you're growing potatoes, I don't use glyphosate. I don't use herbicides on mine. I didn't down there in Texas. But you have to plow. But see, here's what you have a problem. The purist in the Maha movement, the purist, kiss the ground, common ground, all these clowns, sorry, but they have this purist model. But these purist model, oh, plowing destroys the soil. Well, the Bible says that if you don't plow in the winter, you're a fool. So, and it talks about cultivating. And what people don't realize is when you plow or rotary cultivate, especially your plants, you take out the weeds and you inject oxygen into the soil. And that is the biggest game changer. And that's what I do. I teach high production on small acreage. We farmed 35 acres. We had 111 in Texas. We farmed 35 acres. We shipped 500,000 pounds of food to 10 grocery stores per year.
Wow. Steve, you may have said this, or you may have already answered this. You don't use any of these synthetic chemicals on your crops?
That's why Bobby Kennedy came to my farm. I mean, it's kind of that's what I'm saying. RFK should have never come to my farm because he's standing in a field that had been, I had let this field rest for 7 years. It's biblical. You got things that are out of order. You got to let it rest. So I let this farm rest for 7 years and then I plowed the ground, I plowed all that old matter down in the ground and the potatoes. The only thing I did, I grew half the field 100% organic and the other half I used a little commercial fertilizer. Now, this is what happens. We have a war with giant ag and we have a war with the purist. And I'm stuck in the middle. I've been trying to create a middle of the road. It's called sustainable farming. And you boys and girls are down there in Louisiana. If you don't have a little bit of carbol, which is 7 does, or a little bit of malathion, when the yellow grasshopper shows up, what happens to your garden?
Gone.
Yeah, yeah. So you're not so Steve, you do use some of the synthetic fertilizer now, right?
Mhm.
I mean, you're not a complete, as you said, purist on the issue.
The purists are just as dangerous as the glyphosate group. They're just as dangerous because they don't live in reality. What I want to do is I want to take these purists and we'll have a farm challenge down there in Louisiana. We'll say, all right, we're going to give everybody 10 acres and you got to grow sweet potatoes and you have to make this production. And LSU has what the production is. This is what you should make, right? It tells you. All right, so here you go. So you give one to the purist and you give one to the giant ag guy and you give one to the sustainable guy like me. And I'm going to blow these guys out so fast. And the purist guy is going to be sitting down there with his little vacuum cleaner with pantyhose on it, sucking up, potato beetles. And his wife's in there crushing them in a jar and making some sort of juice spray to spray on his field next day. They ain't going to have nothing. And this is the problem. People lose their minds in the purist movement.
It's true. It's true. And I think it's the same about the narratives. It's the place that we're living in right now. The extremes are so extreme, and the people in the middle and the solutions in the middle are the ones that get completely undercut as a result of everybody else on the margins being crazy.
Well, I get killed in every way because if I say in my okay, let's talk about, y'all know what a locust tree is down there in Louisiana? Got thorns on it about that long. It'll puncture a tractor tire. We had them bad in East Texas. What we would do is we would rent a big field or something from somebody that was, ground was kind of sorry. Well, it'd have locust trees in it, about like that. Well, what happens when you plow a locust tree? Every little sliver that the disc cuts up makes another tree. So if you got one, now you're going to have 1,000 and they can puncture your tractor tire. So what we would do is we would take glyphosate, Roundup, and we would spray that field one time and then we would burn it off and plow it in. And we would never, ever have to do that again for another 15 years. And see, that's
so you only had to do it. You only had to do it one time. You're saying
one time.